Kristen, my next question would be to you. A big Netflix Hollywood release. The premiere is happening in India. How does it feel? Have you gotten used to everything here in India, which is different?
No, but it's just the very tip of the iceberg. I filmed here before in 2011 in Rajasthan in Jodhpur with The Dark Knight Rises, and then I brought my family out here. We've been here for 4 days. We travelled through Delhi and Agra and Jaipur, and then just arrived here in Mumbai. And tiny scratch of this incredible country, which has sort of a world within itself. But it's so appropriate for Mowgli to premiere here.
All right, and Rohan. Hi. I like your hair right now too. All right, Rohan. It's a very famous story. Literally every single person in this room and across the world knows this story. People have played Mowgli before. How long did it take for you to get into the character? Like, did you put in a lot of years, probably getting ready for this character of Mowgli, which is iconic?
Yeah, so much like all of you, I actually grew up reading Rudyard Kipling's short stories as well. And, I really loved them, and I really loved Mowgli, the boy who grew up with wolves. He was almost like my hero in a way, but I put a lot of work into this through like the physical side of the character. I did a lot of research on YouTube, and I actually went to upstate New York to camp out with wolves in a wolf conservatory center in order to like observe their movements and kind of observe how they interact with each other, and I try to apply that to Mowgli.
Man, I like it. He did his research on YouTube. I would have aced my exams if I had the internet back then. All right, ladies and gentlemen, of course, I have a lot of questions, but I'm sure that you want to ask your questions. So if you could just raise your hand and a mic would reach you from friends here. Yes, there's a question. Yes, you could start from here. Oh, there's a question coming from there. There's already a mic.
Hi. So shall I just start?
If you could just address...
I have the mic, so I'm just going to start. Hi. My question's for Andy, actually. I know Suren just asked you about Jungle Book in the modern context, but my question is actually a variation on that. What would you say is the relevance of the story today, especially with the whole sort of man-animal conflict, conservation, the environment? There's like kind of sharks, Jaws made sharks scary. Is there a possibility that kids might be afraid of tigers after this? I'm just wondering about all these sort of things. And the film does have layering about these things.
Yeah, I mean, I think that our version of the film does, first of all, it digs into the notion of what it is to be an outsider. That is perhaps the most important aspect of the film, what it is to feel displaced, what it is to not feel that you belong anywhere. And that's why I think it will resonate. We live in a world that is full of people who are told to find differences in others rather than accept others, and that is one of the things that I think is incredibly powerful about this story of belonging. I think on a sort of very small kind of political level, you can't make a version of the Jungle Book now in 2018 without recognizing when it was written, where it was set, the history of the time, and we've tried to bring that to bear in some small way in the film, in the way that in the human relationship to the jungle, in the terms of colonization, in the terms of the world of animals having to recede and to be threatened and to somehow survive. So there is a comment on the fact that we are daily losing great swathes of paradise in our world. And historically, when Rudyard Kipling was writing this book, and what he means, and I firmly believe that his DNA is part of this storytelling. This boy that was brought up in India, whose first language was Hindi, who then was sent away to live in a foreign land. And was abused as a child. So I think that all those aspects really play into a modern retelling, and I don't think you can actually do it by doing a whitewashed version of this film. I think you have to connect with the place that it was originally written and based, and I think that's what we've done.
And a quick question for your son. What was it like working with Dad and doing what he's made so famous the world over with his performance capture techniques?
Yeah, it was great working with him. Obviously, it's cool to see that he's developed this way of acting, and it's been cool to like try out, you know, the performance capture suit. But it was cool because we'd go into work together, and then we'd come back, and it was just like a normal day. Me getting home from work, him getting home from work. So it was cool. It was a new experience.
Right, there's a
Hi,
question
Rohan.
coming from Rudrani. Yes.
Hi, Rohan. I thought you were fantastic in the trailer. What's very interesting is that Mowgli, in different versions, has been always seen as this boy who's been brave, but yet there's this cuteness about him. What we see here is more like a warrior towards the end, where you sort of take on the world. Did you ever think, if you read books, that you would sort of be portraying this version slightly darker, slightly more fierce in your research, or whatever you thought you would do it?
Well, I mean, for a boy growing up in the jungle, you would kind of have to be kind of fierce, you know, to compete with these animals and everything. But also, I think our movie is kind of closer in tone to Rudyard Kipling's book, which it goes kind of deeper a lot with the characters. And also, like, something that I really admire about Mowgli is really just his perseverance, because, you know, obviously he was dealt a very bad hand in life, and I mean, his parents were killed in the jungle when he was just a child, and stuff like that. He just keeps getting obstacles thrown at him over and over and over again, but he still manages to find a way to just like push through those obstacles. So I think that's really amazing about him.
My question also, thank you so much, Rohan. My question is for Mr. Anil Kapoor. I was having this discussion with Andy earlier about how we've never seen Baloo being so authoritative. You know, he's always been presented more in this comical sort of buffoonery, who sort of also has a light, laughter in the film. But here it's got this a little bit more complex layers. Was that all something that sort of attracted you in when you're voicing it out, when you're portraying? Did it sort of help to do this character in a different twist?
First of all, let me be very honest. I was very, it was an honor for me that I was approached to do Baloo's character. And of course, when I saw the film and saw portions of it and read about it, I said, it's definitely more textured and more layered, so it made it much more exciting. And of course, it became a bit, I have to be very honest, because there was, whenever I got stuck, and because you see, obviously, we're used to having the director when we are doing the voiceover, so I was, if he was not there physically present, but Andy's voice was there. So whenever I got stuck, I would hear his voice again and again and again and again, and understand what is he thinking, how is he doing it. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. So because it became a great reference for me, whenever I got stuck, you see, my interpretation was there, but there are times when you need someone to bounce. So this was a great time. I would listen to it 6 times, 7 times, 8 times, and understand it, and then go and do it. So that made it much more exciting for me. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Question from here? करीना जी, कहाँ से आए? माइक है आपके पास?
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I just had a question for Vishek, if he could answer. You know, we've seen so many versions of the Jungle Book through the years and through the decades, in fact. What do you think is about this story that, allows so many frequent retellings of it over and over again? What exactly draws people to this story again and again?
I think what's wonderful about the story that Rudyard Kipling had written is that it appeals to every age group through time. When I was a kid, in the early 80s, and we watched Disney's Jungle Book, which I was told today released in '67, your favorite character inevitably was Baloo, because he was the fun-loving guy. As a kid, you like that. But then when you grow older, your choices change. And then as an adult, you prefer a character like Bagheera because he represents certain responsibilities and values which reflect within you. So what's really nice is, I think, whichever stage of your life you watch this film or read the story, there's something for each and every age group to take away from. There are great sense of values, morals, principles, life's learnings and teachings that you can imbibe and take away. So I think that's why this story keeps getting retold. Having said that, I think Mowgli is the most accurate telling to Kipling's story. I think the rest have been, there have been certain liberties that have been taken to make it more possibly child-friendly. I think Mr. Serkis's version is most honest and true to the original script that Rudyard Kipling had written. Having said that, I think you realize that there's a lot more depth in the story. Okay, there's somebody frantically waving a hand in front of your face. Okay, sorry. All right. No, I'm just used to Netflix saying 5 minutes, 3 minutes. I was just wondering, are they telling me to shut up? Sorry. Sorry. Hurry up, hurry up. Okay. It's a 30-second bite.
Netflix, not from Netflix. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So, so I think you realize that there's so much more depth and layering to this story than what we initially thought when we saw it as children. And I think this representation of the story is most accurate of that, and that's why it appeals across time.